a sensational human being. We'll bring you in second because I've been receiving text messages left, right, and centre. I'm sure you've received a few as well. But Shane, welcome, mate. You look festive.
I'm feeling festive. Thanks very much for the welcome, Nathan. And good evening, Nick. I hope you're well. You're looking well, as per usual. It's a little bit racing orientated now. The Saints are gone. I'm keen to look to the next sporting adventure, and we've got a fairly active spring carnival, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But 3 matches left in the AFL season. The 2 big ones this week. It's a great time to be alive.
It's a fantastic time to be alive. I love this time of year. Normally there's no AFL Grand Final, but that's fine. A little bit either end of summer for all you travellers. As soon as you can get into Australia, come this time of year. But tonight's, event, we'll call it an event. It is brought to you by LRF Sports. You got a sports club, school, any sort of sporting apparel, get on to LRF Sports in the Australasian area. They'll sort you out. But Nick, we'll bring you in, mate. How are you feeling? You look great, but I know you, and I sense that you're a little bit shattered. So we'll address the elephant in the room, mate. I guess, how are you? We'll start with that question.
Well, the elephant in the room is that my boys obviously didn't play last week. Some people were a bit shocked by that. How that can be having the week off. But I guess when you finish where you do on the ladder, you earn the right. And I guess on Friday night at Suncorp Stadium, we'll take on the Canberra Raiders. And I think that, it's been an unbelievable season. COVID, the fact that we've had to shift ourselves up on the Sunshine Coast, some families have been up there. It's been a magnificent performance by probably the greatest sporting organisation the country's ever seen. So the Melbourne Storm just stays to it time and time again, don't they, boys?
Nick, I will give you 13 points out of 10 there. Shane, Nick is a fan of the Melbourne Storm. I'll be seeing them on Friday night, by the way. It's another conversation. But Nick, you may have seen that your second favourite team, or might have slipped a third, Collingwood Magpies, went down. They got thrashed. How did you see this one, mate?
I went into cardiac arrest 5 minutes into the first quarter. Similar to the 22 blokes that were representing the club. Now, cut to the chase, Geelong were very, very good. I had fantastic seats at the game. I could see that the boys just they were cooked. And I suppose in big finals like that, when it's over, it's over. And it was over pretty quickly, unfortunately. But I guess you look at the players who are out that can come back into the side. It's not all doom and gloom for the future of the club. I mean, there's plenty of clubs that would have killed to have lost a semi-final by 10 goals. But I'm not being funny. I'm being serious. I'm talking about maybe not Essendon, because they would love to win a final. But if they've got to the second week of the finals, it means they've won one. So Carlton, they'd like to lose a final by 10 goals. I'm sure Fremantle in a couple of years' time would like to be thereabouts. North Melbourne, they don't even know what finals are. So, yeah, I'll dish out all of the hatred towards other clubs, but yeah, Geelong were good, and they're going to be awfully hard to beat against Brisbane. So, I guess the best 4 sides from the year are there. We predicted this, didn't we? I think the 3 of us predicted these 4 teams would be there. So, yeah, we're done and dusted, Collingwood. But so were the Saints, Shane. I'll pass to you. I was there as well at Metricon Stadium on Friday night. Isn't it a beautiful little boutique-y style stadium? It's just one of the most horrendous places on the planet to try and get in and out of efficiently.
Yeah, look, we were in the game for quite some time. Well, I say that we couldn't breach the margin of about 20 points. So they always had that 3-goal cushion there, and play well. Be great for the youngsters on that side. A lot of them stood up and played a pretty outstanding finals game, and add that to week 1, building block foundations, all that sort of stuff. On was the 2021 record preseason. Deepest lunge by a backman in Kilda history. I can't wait to hear that coming out of Moorabbin or the Gold Coast or Brisbane or Noosa or wherever they're going to be early in 2021. But excited, they overachieved, and onwards and upwards.
It's a Well, I won't say good point, mate. It's an interesting point. Do you believe they overachieved? It's a huge jump. Well, they finished last year, 14th?
It will be
15th.
13th or 14th. So,
Yeah.
in that sort of vicinity. So jumping up half the comp by that 8 spots, I think it's sustainable. I think we've got a pretty young side. All the recruits came in. We'll go, and I think we'll have to be quite aggressive during the trade period once again. We're not a finished product. Brett Ratton came out and said we're not, and I totally agree. We've got some tuning up to do, a bit more quality at the bookends of the ground. A year into Max King, which is exciting, and let's see where it goes. But pretty excited about the future for the boys.
Shane, what would you think of Brody Mychek roaming inside your forward 50 or playing a high half forward role at the Saints next year? I've got a bit of mail for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Out of all the players on Saturday night, Nick, there were a lot of guys who were jogging, seemingly done and dusted to the interchange bench on Saturday night. Mychek was coming on because the amount of defensive effort, the amount of craft, the amount of leads, the amount of double backs, he's honest. He's a toiler. He won you guys a game in a quarter over in the West in a hostile environment. Absolutely. Lay him on. I love the way he goes about it.
What's the story with Mychek, Nick? I know he's been sprouted about with a lot of clubs linked to him as far as headlines go. But is he genuinely shopping around, or is this all media crap?
No, I'll give you some facts. I think there's a 3-year deal on the table from Collingwood. I don't think that he's 27 now, bros. I don't think that the money is where he'd like it. I think in his heart of hearts, he'd love to stay at Collingwood. It's a club that gave him an opportunity when no one else did. You remember he was only picked up at 24 years of age. But I don't think he's a doctor or a teacher or in a field of work where he's going to go and get a nice income once football's done. So this is his hitting zone now. So I think that he's got to be really smart about this decision. And in this day and age, that's what players are doing. But I think he might be a bit old-fashioned. He might stay for unders at Collingwood for the next 3 years, which would be great as a Magpie supporter because we love him. As Shane couldn't have said it any better. Probably of all Collingwood players on Saturday night, he was the one that just looked to keep going. Hence why he was awarded the player of the finals at the EW Cutler Trophy last night.
What's Adam Treloar doing? I didn't see the update. I know his missus is playing netball up in the sunny States next year.
Yeah, it's a funny one. He's staying. He came out and made that clear. I think that he was more upset last night about the focus not being on Kim Ravelian, who was actually once the world's best centre court player in netball. And I think that it's a touchy, taboo sort of subject, which we could open a can of worms on. But he was upset about the way the dialogue went, and it should have been focused on the fact that she's just had a child and what a great effort it is to come back and be playing professional sport again, where the focus was on where's he playing. So he articulated himself for someone who I think struggles at times pretty well last night on AFL 360. Right. He's staying at Collingwood.
Fair enough. And won't press you too much in Collingwood, mate, but where do you see them going, I guess, next year? And more importantly, over the next kind of 3 to 5 years, mate, do you think they'll level out, decline, or do you think they'll bounce back in a big way?
Well, honestly, I hope back to Melbourne. I don't want to jump the gun to where I want to head with tonight's show, but you've got 4 teams left. You've got Port Adelaide. Where do they sleep? In their own beds? You've got Brisbane. Where do they sleep? In their own beds. You've got Richmond, well, one of the greatest teams of the modern era. So that's fair enough that they can be on the Gold Coast and still do great things. And then you've got Geelong, who have been the most consistent side in the last decade. So your final 4 is a balance of reality and circumstance, in my opinion.
Shane, where do you see Collingwood going, mate? We'll move on to the games this weekend.
Mate, they're a good side. And just thinking about some of the guys who missed significant stints throughout the year, the fact they've got Darcy Moore signed back up, they will have to do something with Mychek. They need that bookend because he's so important. But you bring Jeremy Howe back into that group. Taylor Adams was under duress. I think
Steel side bottom.
Side bottom comes back, renewed, refreshed. They've still got way too much talent to not be in that top six. So I don't see them dropping out of that mix.
All right, well, let's move it on, gents. Friday evening, we've got an absolute classic, and you hit the nail on the head. I guess the top four sides for most of the season, Port Adelaide proving me wrong right now, but I get the feeling they'll be kicked out this week, but they've proven me wrong so far. Go on, Richmond. But yeah, so Richmond versus Port Adelaide, or rather Port Adelaide versus Richmond. Let's give credit where credit's due. Nicky J, this is a very, very interesting game. Port are up and about, but Richmond Tigers always come good this time of year, mate. So where's your smart money on?
I think this is it's a toss of the coin, and that's the easy thing to say this time of the year. But they are the two best games of the year, historically, the preliminary finals, because you don't leave anything out there in a grand final. We know that, but preliminary finals are just so raw. So we're starting with the Friday night game or the Saturday night game, Nathan?
Friday.
So Friday night game. So we've got the Tigers in Adelaide. Now, they went there earlier this year, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but did Port Adelaide do a number on them? Or did the Tigers?
Yeah, they won. Richmond did all right. They had a lot of outs from memory.
Yeah, and I think that was around the same time that they had Shane Edwards and Basher Hooley, who had left the bubble to go back to Victoria and that type of thing. I think Richmond are right in their hitting zone at the moment. They just managed to just build and build and build. They weren't, nothing against St Kilda, I watched it firsthand, but Richmond were not at their best last week. You can see patches of their best. Shane Edwards is an absolute star, uses the football like no other. And I used to bag Luke Hodge a fair bit about the way he used to just butcher the football, just get it and just hack it forward. Now, Dusty Martin was doing similar things last Friday night, but I think he capitalises on circumstance. I think he looks up, and if there's someone to be hit laced out, he'll try and hit him laced out. If there's a contest, he'll just bang on the boot and kick it mongrel style to make it more difficult for defenders and brings those smalls in. And that's where you saw Shane Edwards, Shea Bolton, who's your little fella down there. It wasn't Butler because he was playing for the Tigers. But I think that on paper, I think Richmond. I think on history, I say Richmond. But this Port Adelaide side have been on top of the ladder all year. People like you are waiting for them to fall over. Will they? I hope so. I'll tip the Tigers by 6 points.
Shane, would you tag Dusty? He played a weird role on the weekend. A lot of coverage about it. More of a sweeping role, swapping and changing with different positions, half forward, that kind of stuff. Confused. The other midfielders didn't really know what to do with him. So do you just say to someone, your assignment tonight is Dusty, just stick on him like a glove, don't let him get near the ball?
Yeah, I think so. And look, he's probably the finals player of our generation in the past 6 years. That the sheer amount of quality he has put together in September, or obviously this year is different, but has been just immense. So I would imagine if he goes deep, that one of their better defenders will have to go to, and they'll probably sacrifice a matchup on Jack Rewalt, for example, to go to Dusty. That might be a Clunas or a Clury, or a Jonas. But in the midfield, I don't know. I don't think Port Adelaide are going to want to play defensive for the first quarter. I think they're going to go head to head. Your Rockcliffe, Spokes, Wines, they were extraordinary week one. They absolutely belted Geelong, and you can see what they can produce through that midfield as demonstrated on Saturday night. So I don't think they will. I think they'll be forced to, at some time in the evening, go to Dusty and put a little bit of heat on. But I think Port will want to go head to head and see where they end up.
We've got an interesting, you wouldn't call it a matchup, but you got a couple of Suns boys either end of the ground here. And we got Charlie Dixon and, of course, Tommy Lynch. So out of the two of them, I hope Dixon has his number. But this is an interesting matchup. Not a lot's been said about it. But, Nick, how do you see this pairing playing out? Obviously, playing similar roles for their sides, but very polarising player, Tommy Lynch. Lost a lot of fans this year.
I think he was getting booed by Richmond people on Friday night. I did mention this to Shane. I didn't actually see Shane on Friday night at the footy, but there's a lot of Richmond people there. It was for a 14,000 crowd. It was very loud, but it just felt as though, there was an awkwardness when he was around the ball, Tom. I do know his teammates get frustrated with him. He's awfully selfish. Awfully selfish. Tom needs to maybe just have a good look at that video from some behind the scenes play and get back on the Richmond playbook, because it was very, very me from Tommy Boy. Where Big Dicko, geez, he's had a stellar year, but he's been inching towards this for a number of years. He'd be 29, 30 years of age now, I think, Charlie, maybe even 31. But he has been looking like he's going to tear a year apart, and this year probably suited him. Shorter quarters, although he did spend the off-season in the States. If I had to pick one, Lynch or Dixon, I'm picking Dixon probably every day of the week. In saying that, he didn't have a big game last week or fortnight ago in Port Adelaide played. He kicked the one. I don't think this will be a matter of, like, this is a game where, Dixon could kick 4 and Richmond could win. I don't think it's going to be either player get a stranglehold on things unless they go on to kick, 6, 7 goals plus. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence here, aren't I? But I'd pick Dicko over Lynchy. I just on a likability scale, probably nothing football related. So probably relating more to our viewers who are less into the intrinsic elements of the game. I like him more.
I like it. There you go. Bit of heart. Shane, who you tipping with this one, mate? May as well get that out of the way.
I'm going the Tigers as well. I think it'll be close. My understanding throughout the week, there seems to be a bit more of a groundswell for Port Adelaide. The home crowd is going to be massive. You'd love to be there as a grubby teal-wearing individual. But Richmond tonight, I think they'll go in there. The first half will be critical. I think if Port Adelaide come out of the blocks and really set a standard, I don't think they'll be easy to run down. So I think it'll be inch for inch throughout the night, and the Tigers just to get over them.
Yeah, all right. I'll give my tip in a moment. But let's move it on to the Centurion boys before we talk about Saturday night's game, Lions versus Geelong. It's a big one. Shane, bring us in with our sponsor this week for the Centurion.
The Centurion. So for all your curtains and window covering needs across Australasia, Southeast Asia, wherever you like, they are the place to go. Get online. Is that
That'll do. I was thinking about the other guys, but I'll jump on that next day. So there you go. Go ahead and trend there. There you go.
I was going to anyway. Yeah, you can do the coffee shop. You can talk about caffeine. I had no idea what you're talking about there.
No, that's all right. Big fan of the big hits there from the caffeine. But this week's Centurion, ladies and gents, I'm going to take the reins there. Nicky J will take it next week. I'm going to break it down to 5 questions. So going to test these boys. Mainly sports. It is 4 of the 5 with sports. So, gentlemen, your buzzer will be your team of choice. Just your team. Stuff it. Why not? All right.
Okay.
So, first question. Name, and just to clarify, come in with your team's name, and then you get a shot at the question.
Can we test the buzzers first?
Please do.
Oh, I see. I always go, clever, Shane. Clever. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, pause. Whatever.
All right. Question 1. Name the 4 teams still in the rugby league.
Pies. You've got the Melbourne Storm. Oh, you don't want to say the NRLWA. Anyway, I'll go with this. We've got the Melbourne Storm, the Canberra Raiders, the Penrith Panthers, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
I really wish I was a lot faster on the computer because I would have typed that in to get the women's games up. But yes, Nicky J, you are correct. 1-0, Shano.
Yeah.
Question 2. Rafael Nadal, legend, has won this year's...
Pies.
Wrong, Shane. Nick.
20.
Incorrect. How many years in a row has he now won? The answer was 4. These are ferocious questions. So, question 3: how many points did LeBron James score in the final game for the Lakers to close out this year's series?
Pies.
Nick?
It was 34.
Incorrect.
Boom.
Go on.
32.
Incorrect. Do you want me to give it to the closest player?
Yeah,
Closer.
without
Okay.
going over.
Well, you're both over then. So
Really?
28. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. What was Ricky Ponting's test batting average, when he retired?
Pies.
Yep.
56.39.
Incorrect.
I'll go Storm 54.4.
51.85. Shane, I'll give you a point for that one. And the last question.
So I thought you said what was his average when he should have retired because he played on for 12 months too long.
Gotcha.
So
My favourite part of that, remember, I think it was a couple of years before he retired. He came out and won the Ricky Ponting medal for best batsman in Tasmanian state cricket.
yes, that's a good stat.
Love that one. That should have been the question anyway. Last question, number 5. What is the best podcast?
Pies.
Nick.
Is this a trick question?
Well, I wrote it, so it'd be filled with ego. So go ahead.
I can see this being cut up. The best podcast is the Up and About podcast.
Amen, brother. Amen. There you go. So Nicky J bringing it home strong there. So 2-1. 2-1. Well done.
That's me.
2-1. It sounds like the final score in the AFLW Collingwood versus Fremantle last year. 2-1.
Jesus. That's about right. Cop that. All right, so let's move on. Shane will bring you in, mate. I want to hear your voice. Geelong, Brisbane, Saturday night. I will be there, taking Jack, the young one. So Geelong Cats, Brisbane Lions, mate. Oh, goodness gracious me. This could go anywhere. I'm going to back Geelong. Shane, how are you seeing this one play out, mate? There are a lot of moving parts in this one.
This is busy. This is really busy. It's really difficult to try and line them up because the way that West Coast lost to Collingwood, I think that Collingwood were so depleted that Geelong looked super quick on Saturday night. They didn't look as quick the week before against a powerhouse power side down in Adelaide. So it's really difficult to match them up. The best game of the final series so far, in my view, was Brisbane-Richmond week 1. Richmond had come out, they franked the form, they smashed a pretty inexperienced young side. So I am very bullish about the Lions this week. It doesn't fill me with great pleasure that we're going to have to deal with the streamers and that awful theme song throughout the week. But I see them coming out of the blocks quick. I think they'll turn the pressure up like they did against Richmond. And I don't think that Geelong will be able to answer 3 weeks in a row. So I've got the Lions in a relatively comfortable 4 to 5 goal win.
Holy shit.
Oh.
Okay. You don't reckon, well, both teams are a little bit shaky off the boot. You think Lions can, well, I mean, it's been the topic all year. Jake, I know you're watching, mate, but look, when Lions kick straight, they're a very, very formidable side. No one's questioning their general gameplay. It's just the execution.
They did it week 1 against the Tigers, mate. They've had some yips throughout the year, absolutely, and they'll have some sketchy times in front of goal, but honestly, they're going to get a lot more opportunities as a forward line compared to Geelong.
Oh, well, okay. Big call. But okay. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Nico, where are you at?
I think it's going to be a ripping game. If Geelong start like they did against Collingwood, that could really spook Brisbane because remember it was straight sets last year for the Lions. So this is their first preliminary final, correct me if I'm wrong, since 2004.
That would add up.
Would that be correct? Yeah. So that's the first preliminary. So none of the players playing in this game were a part of that. That's stating the obvious. But I think that Geelong just they're very measured. I saw a video of the players coming through the race prior to the Collingwood game. They've got great experience. They're very measured. I think there's not really a player in their side that looks to be spooked or do something stupid and erratic. And I think Brisbane's have a couple of those. And I think in games like this, you want to look for who's the people that put the suit on and go to work and get the job done. I think Geelong will win the game. I hope Geelong win the game. I'm going to say a 2-goal 2-goal lead. I think there'll be a point in the last quarter when Brisbane people are thinking that the Gab will be rocking for them the following week. But I think that, I think we're going to see the Cats prevail and give Gary Ablett the farewell, which everyone who lives between Jan Juck and Torquay have been hoping for.
Well, it's an interesting point that I didn't put any thought towards, and that was the home ground advantage that the Lions obviously have. So
they've only had it for 12 months. So
yeah, no, I just meant by I forgot about the bandwagon jumpers, but
oh yes, please.
But no, when the old Gabatron, when it's up and about, it is up and about. So I hadn't taken that in my calculation. So now that I've put that front of mind, I will change absolutely nothing. Geelong will destroy the Brisbane Lions this weekend by 26 points. But more importantly, other than my ludicrous statements, Shane, where would you play Danger?
First 10 minutes in the midfield. And I'll put him into the midfield for the start of every quarter, and then drift him down there when people are starting to get a little bit fatigued. Push him down there. He was exceptional on Friday night. He played against a fairly lukewarm defence. He didn't have a Harris Andrews coming over the top and a Grant Birchall with those smarts, but so I think there'll certainly be a lot of attention when he does go down there, but I think second half of most quarters.
Nick,
he's the best contested mark in the competition. I'm playing him forward. That's if you're backing your midfield in. So you're backing in Selwood, Menengola, who's the little paddle pop line looking bloke, Guthrie, Riccardi, Hocking. These guys, if these guys get on top early, I think that you can have Dangerfield up forward with Brownless, and maybe swing Timmy McGrath forward. Get Timmy McGrath out of the back line and get him deep forward. The source head. Hey,
Louis.
Yeah.
Well, I think I prefer that play, Nick, because I reckon if Geelong can get their hands on it and bang it forward quickly for the first 5, if Dangerfield gets his hand on the ball, you imagine first quarter against the Brisbane Lions, it's a packed house prelim, a lot of pressure for the young players. They've been a bit yippy, as Geelong have, but if Dangerfield were to just pluck 2 out of the air and kick 2 quick goals in the first 5 minutes from Geelong's midfield, that would be huge.
Can I throw one at you? There'll be one player at Brisbane training this week who'll be itching for that role.
Robbo.
It'll be Mitch Robertson, right? and he will be itching to get the job on Dangerfield. If that happens, all the boys and girls out there, go to your Sportsbet account, go to your Neds account. We're not sponsored by anyone, but empty it out and put it on Patrick getting 20 plus, 3+ goals, and Geelong winning.
4 votes in the final Brownlow.
Yeah.
Surely that face. Please,
I like his enthusiasm. He's the type of bloke that wants. He'll want a big job and take a big scalp. But not in the preliminary final, Mitchell. No.
Is there anyone that we're missing? Is there anyone that's going to perhaps turn the game on its head? Maybe a fringe player that might just have a standout game.
Would you still call Jared Lyons a fringe player? I still think it's an unbelievable story how he walked up the M1 with no shoes on, unloved, walked into the Gabba after some incident on the Gold Coast. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe he was upset about some of the coaching appointments in the other department, but he's found his way to the Gabba and just flies under the radar. He just gets the job done. He's so consistent. He's the type of player that he could go well here. He could fly under the radar. Shane, Hugh McCluggage, he needs to kick straight, Hughie, doesn't he? He's a horrible kick at the ball.
Gets a bit nervous in front of the sticks, but get him and the Jared Berry kicking a snag early in the first quarter. It's on. It's right on. Those kids will get confident.
Rain is a terrible kick as well.
Who is sorry?
Yeah.
Rain is a terrible kick. Look, it's a problem for them, and Nathan's highlighted it throughout the year. You can't be if you're inaccurate on Saturday night, it could cost you.
How about Dan McKay? He's got something to prove, do you think? Well, does he stay? I know we're probably moving into a summer conversation, but will he feel the extra heat knowing that Joey's coming in?
Well, I think it's a given because I think Essendon have the money to match the offer, which could cause some problems there. But no, I think that he's 2 weeks away from being a premiership player, where Joe Danaher is backpacking in Mount Isa, isn't he?
Throwing some rods in. But all right, gentlemen, let's move it on. It's going to be an absolute classic. So I'm going to the Storm Raiders game on the Friday, which may be Cam Smith's last game. May not be, but probably will be. And then, of course, the Lions taking on the Cats. So I've got a blockbuster weekend ahead of me. Gentlemen,
can we say one thing on that? Just want to say one thing. You're very lucky to be going to what is Queensland's premier venue. Suncorp Stadium is an outstanding facility. So you'll be, I don't know why they didn't take some seats out and try and make that the AFL Grand Final venue. But anyway, if it is not to be for the Storm, it's because we've got a terrible record against the Canberra Raiders. But Canberra usually play really well against us in Melbourne. So it's probably a blessing in disguise that COVID forces the game to play at the Suncorp. If it is Cameron Smith's last game, what an unbelievable player and ambassador he's been for the game in the state of Victoria. And people say that Victorians use bandwagon supporters of the Melbourne Storm. Consistently the best crowds, consistently the most passionate parochial sports people in the country who are still locked down under the Kazakhstan ruler. So to Cameron Smith, go well and put your mob in another grand final. Great man. I hope he goes really well.
I am bloody pumped to see him. I've never seen him play, actually. Boys, you been to a State of Origin before?
Yeah, been to a few.
Yeah, I've been to a State of Origin before. I think I might have used this one before, but I went to, I think it was your boys, Shane, New South Wales got up. That was at Suncorp. It was 52,000. Yep. It was, the best way to describe it was I went to a Adelaide Crows Collingwood game at the MCG where there was just a tick over 50,000. It was a very similar feeling.
Wow. All right. So, boys, it's we've got something new tonight. We're going to try it. Might not work. Probably won't work. We'll try it anyway. So we're just going to find random little events, read them out and see what the boys think of it. So here's a headline for you, courtesy Channel 9 News. Queensland woman. I might just preface this by saying I'm not going to say her name because it turns out she's struggling with a few issues in life, so I don't want to highlight it too much for her. But Queensland woman who rode horse to bottle shop drunk, put on probation. So a Queensland woman has been placed on probation after riding her horse drunk to a drive-through bottle shop. The lady blew more than 4 times over the limit when she was refused service at the Logan City Tavern earlier this month. The pensioner tried to ride her horse through the drive-through bottle shop to buy more wine. Instead, she ended up in police custody. Sentenced to 18 months probation with a conviction recorded. She said she had no idea she was breaking the law by riding her horse Skippy after drinking, and she's done it multiple times before. Not only have I ridden my horse through quite a few bottle-os and never been refused service, I've never been refused service on my horse at the pub either, she said. So I guess, Nick, mate, if you had a horse, would you ride it through the bottle shop?
Probably not if I was 4 times over the legal limit, Nathan. I'm not quite sure I could climb on a horse with my aging body as it is, let alone 4 times over the limit. But what part of the world was this?
Logan City.
Yep.
Hey, whoa. That's where I learnt my skills. But reminds me of
performing in a couple of weeks at the Gabba. Her riding Buck the Bronco up the M1. Being one of our talented artists coming out the big day to provide some pre-game entertainment. Look forward to hearing from her.
Lovely. It does remind me of a story. I was out on an evening. I think it was late teens, likely. I think it was actually with a gentleman by the name of Chris Mulhall, Nicky J. But
look out!
Yeah, so we were out and about, up and about, and we're going for a little bit of a stroll. And this is no word of a lie. We're walking through suburbia, and I think this is it's either Shayla Park. It might have been on the edge of Slacks Creek there, or you Logan Heights. But we're walking past, and I spot with my eagle eye a cow tied up to a clothesline just in the middle of this gentleman's backyard. So I've, of course, made the delightful decision to jump over the fence and attempt to ride the horse, not through the bottle, just to get on the horse to see,
ride the cow.
Yeah, to ride the cow. That was the one. And needless to say, the gentleman woke up and he come out and he wasn't much too happy, but it gets worse. He was on crutches and he wasn't happy and tried to have a go on crutches. It was very weird and awkward. But anyway, there you go. Shout out to Chris.
And we probably should apologise to we might have some loyal viewers in Logan. There's some unbelievable restaurants in Logan. So anyone in the Logan area, check out. It's just on the side of the M1 there, IKEA, a fantastic restaurant. Just there, Springwood Way. Fantastic restaurant.
There is another restaurant, and this is going to annoy me. I'm going to put a little link somewhere. Do you remember the Chan family restaurant on Bryant's Road there? It was Hibiscus. It was the Hibiscus, but it's changed its name, I believe. Hibiscus Restaurant, Bryant's Road.
Is this still a Chan institution?
Yeah. So long story short, great family friends of the podcast, the Chans, Kenton, Danny, and young Vanessa. Their parents owned the Hibiscus restaurant. It might be the Hibiscus restaurant still. But anyway, long story short, they sold it, got out of the game, and then decided to buy it back, bring it back up to speed. So head into the Hibiscus restaurant there.
And shout out to was it Danny Chan was the pen flicking king? Was it?
Yep.
He was the pen flicking king. And I always used to remember just to stir them up. There was another a great restaurant in Logan, and Shane, this one, the Cam Coon restaurant on, I was going to say Moss Street. Watland Street is too, the Watland Street Plaza there. And I used to tell the Chans that if you want the best sweet and sour chicken, you go to Cam Coon. And used to rile them up a bit. That was one for 2 decades ago, boys. It's amazing how you remember things from 2 decades ago. It's just, geez, 2 decades ago. Wow.
Nathan, can I jump in? I've got a pending headline for this week.
Oh goodness, please.
Okay. Yep. So I don't want to call myself Nostradamus, but the New South Wales Daily Telegraph, I think they call it, Gladys falls on her sword. I see that coming out at some stage this week. Our loyal premier down south of the border. I think she's going to. She's confronting a couple of issues at the moment regarding probity and corruption. So I think Gladys might fall on a rubber sword down there.
Can I make an opinion piece on that?
Please.
I'm sorry, but if she was a man, she'd already be gone. That's the reality. The political correctness of things. She's had a relationship with a married man. She's the premier of the state. She is relatively aware of some corrupt activity. And she's still the premier?
That's strange. Just on that, I had a conversation today with a fine young gentleman at work, Elliot. But you boys see, first of all, did you hear about the hoo-ha, as it were, about Joe Rogan and Spotify and the Spotify employees trying to get some stuff censored and all that kind of stuff? Did you hear about that?
No, full disclosure, we did speak pre-game about a different Joe Rogan experience that I've had. So no, continue.
We should cut that one up. Anyway, long story short, there's all these reports that staff at Spotify, right? And just to keep it in context for some of our listeners that maybe aren't aware, Joe Rogan's been brought over to Spotify for an unbelievable sum of money for exclusivity. Now, some of the Spotify staff are going out of their way to censor some Joe Rogan episodes, saying that they're offensive, essentially. And Joe Rogan's response was pretty, I thought, bang on in this outrageous, ridiculous, misplaced age of political correctness. He come out and said something. It was to do with trans people. There's an episode on trans people, and Joe Rogan come out in defense of his own opinion and said, listen, first of all, Spotify have said nothing about this to me. I haven't had a word from anyone. Second of all, you know, I've got trans friends, and he went further to say, in today's environment, if you're not pro-trans, then you're a transphobe. He said, I'm not a transphobe. I just don't agree with a lot of the things that are being said and a lot of the narratives around it. Now, that doesn't make me transphobe. And the fact that the narrative seems to be that if you're not pro-trans, you are a transphobe, that's dangerous. That is critically dangerous. If we're not allowed to hold our own opinions that don't agree with some of these, and he quoted them as 23-year-old woke folk at Spotify, then it is a dangerous, slippery slide that we're entering. So I thought he summed it up perfectly.
I'll leave that as a standing comment. It's a very touchy subject, and I don't want people to come for us. But if you generally in this day and age, if you have an opinion which is to the right of centre, you get smashed.
Very touchy indeed, Nicholas. Very touchy.
Shane, you want to touch on the, speaking of touching, you want to touch on the Gabba entertainment, or is it that crap you just want to move on?
No. Look, I think the only thing that could actually spark a little bit of interest in that is that they maybe blast a little razor ray out of a cannon to a dartboard at the other end of the ground, something a little bit theatrical, something with a little bit of fireworks, something a little bit of talent, a little bit of flair. How about a little bit of flair there, Brisbane? But this is going to be the worst AFL pre and during entertainment we have experienced. I'm including Bat Out of Hell. Bring him on. I would love, if Meatloaf was available right now, he would be the sole act in Brisbane next weekend. It is a diabolical lineup. They should have found a way to get people across the border. There's people in Byron who can go on the scrum, and where's your girl daughter at the moment there, Nico? Deary me.
And I should just tap onto that as well. This isn't taking anything away from the entertainers at the Gabba. This is reflective on the AFL's decision to, I believe, cheap out along with some of their choices and trying to get some free entertainment. But yeah, interesting. Watch your space. But look, let's move on to the short pass, shall we? Get the short pass out of the way. This one's brought to you by Hallowed Grounds Espresso. Shana, your favourite mob.
Look at that prep. That's good prep.
They got patisseries there? Surely they do.
Sure. Yes, patisseries everywhere. Yes.
See.
Wow.
Fantastic. But no, they're go see them out on the south side. They're sensational. So, ladies and gents, we're about that time. So I might lead this one. I'm going to send my short pass to my beautiful missus, and I'll tell you why. The last 3 weeks, I'm not exactly a technological guru at all. So I went out and bought this bloody cable to hook up straight to the Wi-Fi thing and hook into the laptop and whatever else. And in my wisdom, I've decided to set it up just before kickoff, before the start of play. Of course, it didn't work. Got no idea what's going on. The Wi-Fi shit. That's why it was all stuffing up. Anyway, last 2 weeks she's been great. Got it all sorted. So to her, Shane.
I've got a chunky multi. If you want to empty the tin, there is a big weekend of sport, and this is in advance of next weekend's weekend of sport, which is going to create divorces and domestic issues across the country. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, I've got three. So the Everest, which is the richest race on turf, classic legend, beautiful grey, reminds me of the great Chautauqua, currently paying about $5.50. Into very elegant, reminds me of Nick and his dance style. That is paying $5.50 to win the Caulfield Cup, which is in Melbourne, 2,400 metres. Into Sunday night, the Brownlow, Todd Goldstein paying $3 to be the highest voting North Melbourne player. They are disastrous. Jed Anderson is the favourite at $2.75. So $5.50 by $5.50 into by $3. We're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of around about $75 to $80. So kids, get out there, go and steal dad's credit card and look through his phone for his password. Get on it.
But don't look at his incognito tab. So my short pass this week, Nathan, if I may segue to myself. Hey, the Sheffield Shield started, boys. Were you aware of that? The Sheffield Shield has started. So New South Wales, the reigning champions after last season, was COVIDed out. And we had the weird presentations, and you can't shine the ball, and you can't do this. Anyway, the short pass this week is to Timmy Payne. Timmy, if you want to play for Australia again, mate, you got to score some runs. And I think there's a couple of Shield games before that first test that you're involved in. You've got to score some runs. The country loves you. You've been fantastic throughout this traumatic period in Australian cricket history. But, mate, if you're not scoring runs, there's no place for you in our test side. We've got to move on. I don't want us to move on yet, but please just dip in, have a dip, have a crack, get some runs, or you're gone.
Righto, on that note, ladies and gents, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Up and About podcast.